We're going to turn to the French newspapers now, and Elena is with us here on set. She's got some good news. Some good news, that is, if you are Nicolas Sarkozy.
Yeah, we haven't had much of that recently,
Not really,
have we?
no.
So Le Figaro is quite excited. It's because they found a poll which has been carried out by the right-wing think tank IFOP, which has got Sarkozy on the top of the first round with 28.5% compared to 27% for François Hollande. Now, remember that we've seen a lot of polls recently which vary enormously from one to the other. We've seen everything from Hollande 8 points ahead to 1 point ahead to 1 point behind, all on the same day. But this is the first poll that has actually put Nicolas Sarkozy ahead in the first round. So they're getting very excited. For Le Figaro, it's probably the Villepinte effect that they blame for it. Villepinte, of course, where he gave a big speech on Sunday with two key propositions: that France should pass an act encouraging people to buy French production, and that the Schengen Agreement over border controls should be revised. Now, apparently 59% of the French back that idea of effectively restricting immigration to France more and more. So that's what seems to have been working. Now, this is all part of Sarkozy's campaign strategy, which supposedly is consisting at the moment of making one really big announcement every day and thus grabbing as much media attention as possible. Yesterday, as Le Parisien points out, it was taxing French tax exiles who live abroad. So French people living abroad would have to submit their tax returns to the French authorities, and any income they're not paying tax on in the country where they're living, they would have to pay it in France. Now, this already applies to American citizens living abroad, but the first person to suggest it in France was Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far-left candidate. So Sarkozy really is picking policies from both the left and the right to try and put together a programme here.
All very well, but of course he's also in the headlines for another reason spin doctors might not be quite so keen on. This is rumours that Gaddafi funded his last presidential election campaign.
Yes. Now, this originally came from a neurosurgeon called Didier Grosskopf, as Libération explains today. Now, he treated Gaddafi, and then he apparently confided in a friend who also happens to be a private investigator, whose name is Jean-Charles Brissard. Now, it's Brissard who's now leaked originally to the website Mediapart. Now, he says that a contract was signed between France and Libya in 2007 to supply Libya with material they could have used to spy on opposition activists' internet use. Now, as possibly as a kickback for that deal, according to Brissard at least, Sarkozy then received 50 million euros from Gaddafi, which he could have used to finance his 2007 re-election campaign. Of course, the Sarkozy camp has denied this completely, and it's a bit surprising it should come out now because Brissard has already been heard as a witness by magistrates investigating allegations of illegal campaign finance during that election. But there you go, it's making a scandal now.
Intriguing stuff. What about Sarkozy's rival, then, François Hollande? What's he been up to?
Well, Le Figaro is reporting on his campaign strategy, which according to them is mass mobilisation. That means getting 150,000 volunteers to go and knock on 5 million doors between now and election day. It also means collecting as much information on sympathisers as they possibly can. Of course, the PS carried out a primary vote, which meant that they have the information of millions of sympathisers who voted in that, and they're also trying to copy Barack Obama's online strategy of using Facebook and social networks to collect information about their supporters. So they've got personal information already about 700,000 people who they're now going to use for a targeted advertising campaign. Now, 6 random people were picked in a poll on that website out of 12,000 who applied to have a cup of coffee with François Hollande, and Le Parisien was there yesterday to see what those ordinary people asked him. Now, Hollande's told them that the first things he'll do when in office is try and freeze the petrol price and try and turn over more government land so that houses can be built on it.
And another story, this is in Libération, in fact, looking at the viewpoint of those voting for the first time.
Yeah, Libération is looking at what it means to be 20 under Sarkozy. Now, they point out quite importantly on the inside that young people are not one unified demographic. They're all kinds of people with different economic situations, different political views. They've done this quite clever graphic that you can see there on the left that splits young people, 18 to 25-year-olds, into 4 different bubbles. So they've got the angry ones. Those are the ones who feel they've been ripped off by the economic system, that school hasn't prepared them for jobs properly, and they might vote for far-left Jean-Luc Mélenchon, for Marine Le Pen. They're apparently 32%. Then there's 29% of the completely disenchanted who say they're unlikely to vote at all and they feel ripped off by the system. And then there's another 22% of young people apparently who actually might vote for Sarkozy, who feel that the education system and the employment system has done quite well for them. So young people, not a unified bloc, they're pointing out. Quite an interesting article.
OK, have a look at that if you're in France, or if not, you can always have a look online, of course. Elena there with the French papers here on France 24.